Have you ever heard that a single food could influence one of the most important systems inside your body, your DNA? It sounds like something out of science fiction. After all, DNA is often described as the blueprint of life, the instruction manual that determines how our cells function. Most people assume that once DNA is damaged, there's very little they can do about it. But researchers studying aging, inflammation, and longevity have uncovered something remarkable. Certain foods contain natural compounds that may help support the body's own DNA repair systems while also influencing inflammation, one of the major biological processes associated with aging and chronic disease. And among all the foods scientists have investigated, one stands out for its extraordinary concentration of protective plant compounds. What's surprising is that many people overlook it entirely. Today, we'll explore the fascinating science behind a food that researchers believe may support healthy DNA function, help the body manage inflammation, and potentially contribute to healthier aging. And the most interesting discovery comes near the end, when we'll reveal why this food appears to influence multiple systems in the body at the same time. The findings may change how you think about what belongs on your plate. For decades, scientists viewed aging as something largely predetermined. You got older, cells accumulated damage, energy declined, disease risk increased. That was simply considered the natural progression of life. But over the last several decades, researchers began uncovering evidence that lifestyle factors can influence many biological processes linked to aging. One of the most important discoveries involved inflammation. Inflammation itself is not the enemy. In fact, it's essential for survival. When you cut your finger, your immune system activates inflammation to help repair damaged tissue. When your body encounters harmful microbes, inflammation helps coordinate defense mechanisms. The problem arises when low-grade inflammation persists for years. Researchers have observed that chronic inflammation is associated with many age-related conditions, including cardiovascular disease, metabolic dysfunction, cognitive decline, and reduced physical resilience. This persistent state has become so important in aging research that scientists even created a term for it. They call it inflammaging. And this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. While scientists were studying inflammation, they also began investigating another hallmark of aging: DNA damage. Every day, your DNA is exposed to countless challenges. Normal metabolism generates reactive molecules. Environmental exposures can affect cellular structures. Even ordinary biological processes create wear and tear over time. Fortunately, your body isn't passive. It contains sophisticated DNA repair systems that continuously monitor and help maintain genetic integrity. In fact, researchers estimate that cells repair enormous numbers of DNA alterations every day. The real question became this: can nutrition influence these protective mechanisms? And if so, which foods appear most effective? For years, scientists searched for answers. Then attention began focusing on a category of foods known as berries, not because of their vitamins, not because of their fiber, but because of a remarkable collection of compounds called polyphenols. Among all berries, one variety repeatedly attracted scientific interest: the blueberry. At first glance, blueberries don't seem extraordinary. They're small, they're sweet, they're common in grocery stores around the world. Yet beneath their deep blue color lies a complex chemical profile that researchers continue to investigate. Blueberries are rich in anthocyanins, naturally occurring plant compounds responsible for their vibrant color. These compounds belong to a larger family of polyphenols that plants produce for protection. Interestingly, when humans consume these compounds, evidence suggests they may interact with numerous biological pathways. But researchers later discovered something surprising. The benefits being observed couldn't be explained by antioxidant activity alone. For years, antioxidants dominated nutrition headlines. The theory seems simple: oxidative stress contributes to cellular damage. Antioxidants help neutralize harmful molecules. Therefore, more antioxidants should be better. But biology turned out to be far more complex. Scientists began finding that many beneficial plant compounds don't simply act as shields. Instead, they appear to function more like messengers. They interact with cellular signaling systems. They influence gene expression. They help activate protective responses already built into the body. This concept transformed how researchers think about nutrition. Rather than acting directly, certain compounds may encourage cells to strengthen their own defense mechanisms. And this brings us back to DNA. Studies have found that blueberry polyphenols may influence pathways associated with cellular resilience and repair processes. Researchers continue investigating exactly how these interactions occur, but evidence suggests these compounds may support mechanisms involved in maintaining cellular health. That doesn't mean blueberries magically repair DNA. That's not what the science says. What researchers believe is far more interesting. Certain compounds found in blueberries may help support biological systems that already exist within the body. And when those systems function efficiently, cells may be better equipped to manage everyday stressors. However, that's not the most interesting part. The real surprise emerged when scientists began studying the brain. Many people assume aging affects the body and brain separately. Research increasingly suggests they are deeply connected. Inflammation in the body may influence the brain. Metabolic health may affect cognitive function. Circulation may impact memory and focus. Because of these connections, researchers became interested in whether blueberry compounds could reach the brain and influence neurological processes. The findings attracted significant attention. Multiple studies have suggested that regular blueberry consumption may support aspects of cognitive performance, particularly in older adults. Researchers have explored areas such as memory, executive function, and cognitive resilience. While results vary across studies, the consistency of interest has been notable. Why would a fruit influence the brain? Scientists believe part of the answer may involve inflammation. The brain is highly sensitive to inflammatory signals. When inflammation remains elevated over long periods, normal cellular communication may become less efficient. Certain blueberry compounds appear to interact with pathways associated with inflammatory regulation. Again, this doesn't mean blueberries prevent disease or act as treatments, but evidence suggests they may contribute to an overall dietary pattern that supports healthy brain aging. And this is where the story becomes even more fascinating. Researchers studying longevity often focus on something called biological age. Chronological age measures how many birthdays you've celebrated. Biological age attempts to estimate how your body is functioning internally. Two people can both be 65 years old. One may remain energetic, physically active, mentally sharp, and metabolically healthy. The other may struggle with mobility, fatigue, and declining health. Scientists are increasingly interested in understanding what creates that difference. Nutrition appears to play a major role, not through dramatic interventions, not through extreme diets, but through thousands of small biological influences accumulated over years. Blueberries have become one of the most frequently studied foods in this area because they appear to affect multiple systems simultaneously: inflammation, oxidative stress, vascular function, cellular signaling, metabolic health, brain health. Few foods receive attention across so many areas of research. Yet the real lesson isn't that blueberries are magical. It's that nature often packages beneficial compounds together in ways science is still trying to fully understand. A blueberry contains fiber, vitamins, minerals, water, and hundreds of bioactive compounds. These elements may work together in ways isolated supplements cannot easily replicate. Most people never hear about what happened next. As scientists expanded their research, they began investigating blood vessels. And what they found helped explain why blueberries may influence so many aspects of health. Your circulatory system functions like an internal transportation network. Every organ depends on it: your heart, your muscles, your kidneys, your brain. Healthy blood vessels help deliver oxygen and nutrients where they're needed most. Researchers have found that compounds found in blueberries may support endothelial function. The endothelium is a thin layer lining blood vessels. Though incredibly small, it plays a major role in vascular health. When endothelial function is optimized, circulation tends to operate more efficiently. Why does that matter? Because healthy circulation affects nearly every organ system. It influences energy levels, physical performance, cognitive function, and overall resilience during aging. Suddenly, the puzzle pieces begin fitting together. A food that influences inflammation, a food that supports vascular function, a food associated with healthy cellular responses, a food being studied for cognitive benefits. The story becomes much bigger than a simple fruit. It becomes a window into how nutrition interacts with human biology. Yet researchers discovered another unexpected finding. The benefits may not require enormous amounts. Many people assume more is always better. Science often tells a different story. In numerous nutrition studies, consistent intake matters more than extreme intake. Small daily habits frequently outperform occasional large efforts. That's encouraging because incorporating blueberries into a regular eating pattern is relatively simple. They can be added to yogurt, oatmeal, smoothies, salads, or enjoyed on their own. Fresh or frozen varieties both retain valuable nutrients. And for many people, that consistency may be easier to maintain than complicated dietary strategies. But before you rush to fill your refrigerator, there's an important nuance that often gets overlooked. No single food determines health outcomes. Not blueberries, not leafy greens, not nuts, not fish. Health emerges from patterns. Researchers repeatedly emphasize that dietary patterns matter more than individual foods. Blueberries appear most beneficial when consumed as part of an overall lifestyle that includes nutritious eating, physical activity, quality sleep, stress management, and avoidance of harmful habits. And that's exactly why the science is so compelling, because it reminds us that health isn't usually transformed by one dramatic action. It's shaped by countless small choices that interact over time. And blueberries may represent one of those surprisingly powerful choices. But the most important lesson from this research isn't really about blueberries at all. It's about understanding how the body responds to what we eat every single day, because every meal sends signals. Every food interacts with biology. Every choice influences processes that may accumulate over years and decades. And once researchers began looking at health through that lens, they started seeing nutrition in an entirely new way. The implications extend far beyond a single fruit. They reach into the future of healthy aging itself. As researchers continued exploring the relationship between nutrition and aging, they began asking an even bigger question. Why do some people seem to maintain vitality well into their 70s, 80s, and beyond, while others experience a much earlier decline in health? At first, genetics appear to be the obvious answer. Genes certainly matter. They influence countless aspects of human biology. But scientists studying longevity repeatedly found something intriguing. Genetics may explain only part of the story. Lifestyle factors appear to play a substantial role in determining how those genetic instructions are expressed throughout life. And this is where the discussion returns to DNA in a way many people never expect. When most people think about DNA, they imagine a fixed blueprint that cannot change. However, researchers have discovered that while the genetic code itself remains largely stable, the activity of genes can be influenced by environmental factors. Nutrition is one of those factors. Scientists refer to this field as epigenetics. In simple terms, epigenetics involves chemical signals that help determine which genes become more active and which become less active. Think of DNA as a vast library. Not every book is being read at the same time. Different conditions may influence which sections are accessed. Researchers have found that certain dietary compounds may interact with these regulatory systems. And this is one reason blueberries continue attracting scientific attention. Their polyphenols appear capable of influencing cellular communication pathways involved in stress responses, inflammation regulation, and healthy aging processes. Yet the real discovery came years later. Scientists realized that many age related changes do not occur suddenly, they develop gradually, long before symptoms appear, long before a diagnosis, long before someone notices a decline. Tiny biological shifts may accumulate for years. Inflammatory signals rise, cellular efficiency decreases, blood vessels become less responsive, recovery slows, energy production changes. The body adapts little by little. Because these changes occur gradually, researchers increasingly focus on prevention rather than reaction. The goal isn't simply extending lifespan, it's improving health span. Health span refers to the years of life spent in good physical, cognitive, and metabolic health. Most people don't just want to live longer, they want to remain independent. They want to stay mentally sharp. They want to enjoy family, travel, hobbies, and meaningful experiences. They want quality of life. And evidence suggests that nutrition can influence many of the biological processes connected to health span. This brings us to another surprising finding involving inflammation. For years, inflammation was viewed mainly as an immune system issue. Today, scientists recognize that it may affect nearly every major organ system. Chronic inflammation has been associated with changes in cardiovascular health. It may influence metabolic regulation. It may affect cognitive performance. It may alter recovery after physical activity. It may even contribute to feelings of fatigue and reduced resilience. Because inflammation touches so many systems, researchers are especially interested in foods that may help support healthy inflammatory balance. Blueberries frequently appear in these investigations because their bioactive compounds seem to interact with multiple inflammatory pathways simultaneously. That's an important distinction. The body does not operate through isolated systems. Everything is connected. The immune system communicates with the nervous system. The nervous system influences metabolism. Metabolism affects vascular health. Vascular health influences brain function. When one area improves, other areas often benefit as well. And this interconnectedness may help explain why a seemingly simple food continues generating scientific interest. But researchers later discovered something even more unexpected. The benefits of plant compounds may extend beyond human cells. They may also influence the trillions of microorganisms living inside the digestive system. This community is known as the gut microbiome. In recent years, the microbiome has become one of the most rapidly expanding areas of health research. Scientists have observed connections between gut health and immune function, connections between gut health and metabolism, connections between gut health and brain function. Some researchers even refer to the gut as a communication hub because of its extensive interactions throughout the body. Here's where things become fascinating. Many polyphenols are not fully absorbed immediately after consumption. Instead, they interact with gut microbes. Those microbes transform the compounds into additional metabolites that may have biological activity of their own. In other words, the story doesn't end when you eat the blueberry. That's when another chapter begins. Researchers believe part of the health effects associated with polyphenol-rich foods may result from this partnership between plant compounds and beneficial gut microbes. It's an extraordinary example of biological cooperation. The food nourishes the microbiome. The microbiome transforms components of the food. Those transformed compounds may then influence human physiology. This relationship highlights a larger lesson. Human health is often more complex and more remarkable than we realize. And this complexity helps explain why whole foods continue outperforming simplistic health trends. Every few years, a new supplement captures headlines. A new miracle ingredient appears. A new shortcut promises dramatic results. Yet nutrition science repeatedly returns to a consistent message. Whole foods provide intricate combinations of nutrients and bioactive compounds that interact in ways researchers are still uncovering. Blueberries are one example, but they also represent a broader principle. Nature tends to package beneficial compounds together, and those combinations may matter. However, that's not the most practical takeaway. The practical takeaway involves consistency. One of the biggest misconceptions in health is the belief that major results require major actions. Research often suggests the opposite. Small actions performed consistently may create meaningful effects over time. Consider physical activity. A single workout changes very little. Years of regular movement can transform health. The same principle applies to sleep. One good night helps. Years of healthy sleep habits may have a much greater impact. Nutrition works similarly. One serving of blueberries will not transform your biology overnight, but a pattern repeated hundreds or thousands of times across years may contribute to long-term health outcomes. Scientists studying longevity often observe this pattern among populations that age successfully. They don't necessarily rely on extreme interventions. Instead, they practice sustainable habits. Nutritious foods, regular movement, strong social connections, adequate sleep, stress management, purpose, and engagement. The cumulative effect appears powerful, and this perspective changes how we view healthy aging. Rather than searching for a single breakthrough, researchers increasingly emphasize daily behaviors. The choices repeated most often may matter the most. And this is where the story takes another interesting turn. Many people associate healthy eating with restriction. They think about what must be removed, what must be avoided, what must be eliminated. But some of the strongest evidence in nutrition focuses on addition rather than subtraction. Adding more vegetables, adding more fiber-rich foods, adding more colorful fruits, adding more nutrient-dense choices. Blueberries fit naturally into this approach. Instead of representing deprivation, they represent enrichment, a simple addition that may increase intake of beneficial compounds without requiring drastic dietary changes. And for many people, that makes healthy eating more realistic because sustainability matters. The healthiest diet is rarely the most extreme one. It's the one someone can maintain consistently over time. Researchers studying long-lived populations repeatedly observe this principle. Successful dietary patterns tend to be practical, enjoyable, flexible, and compatible with everyday life. Yet perhaps the most profound lesson emerging from this research has little to do with food itself. It concerns how we think about aging. For generations, aging was often viewed as a process of inevitable decline, a gradual loss of function that could only be accepted. Modern science paints a more hopeful picture, not because aging can be stopped, not because there are shortcuts, not because there are miracle solutions, but because researchers continue discovering ways lifestyle choices may influence how aging unfolds. Physical activity supports muscle and brain health. Sleep supports recovery and cognitive performance. Stress management influences hormonal and inflammatory pathways. Nutrition provides signals and building blocks that affect countless biological processes. Together, these factors create opportunities to support healthier aging. Blueberries happen to be one of the most researched foods within that larger framework. They are not a magic answer. They are not a guarantee. But evidence suggests they may be one small piece of a much bigger picture. And perhaps that's what makes the science so compelling. A tiny fruit, a handful of plant compounds, and a growing body of research suggesting that everyday foods may influence biological pathways connected to inflammation, vascular health, cellular resilience, cognitive function, and healthy aging. What once seemed ordinary becomes extraordinary when viewed through the lens of modern science. The deeper researchers look, the more they discover that health is not determined by one event. It is shaped by countless interactions occurring every day inside the body. Every meal, every step, every night of sleep, every choice. The future of healthy aging may not depend on dramatic breakthroughs alone. It may depend just as much on understanding these small, cumulative influences. And that brings us back to the question we started with. Can one food repair your DNA and stop inflammation? The scientific answer is more nuanced. No single food can perform miracles. No food eliminates aging. No food guarantees health. But research suggests that foods rich in bioactive compounds, including blueberries, may help support the body's natural protective systems. They may contribute to healthy inflammatory balance. They may support cellular resilience. They may help maintain functions that become increasingly important as we age. And when combined with other healthy habits, those effects may add up in meaningful ways over time. The decisions we make today may seem small: a walk after dinner, an extra serving of fruits and vegetables, a better night's sleep, a handful of blueberries added to breakfast. Individually, these actions may appear insignificant, but over years and decades, those choices can shape how we age, how we feel, and how long we remain healthy. That's why understanding the science matters, because healthy aging isn't built in a single day. It's built one decision at a time.